Hello everyone and welcome to another video on the Automation Lab channel. So today I want to zoom in into a issue that maybe a lot of agency founders, people that are experimenting with LLMs have faced, and that is how can you instill more trust into your client so they can actually implement a LLM or AI implementation into their business. Because right now we all know what AI is currently capable of, they keep improving, but they also have a lot of flaws or things they cannot do yet. So to make sure that customers, clients can use AI models, think about RAG chatbots, it can be agents, N8N agents, workflow automation agents. You need to give them a way to have some kind of reliability of the application in production. Because at the end of the day, the client that you are giving your AI implementation to will be using this to serve their own clients, their own customers. And they need to make sure that whatever the AI is producing is actually reliable. And so we have to make sure that all the things that LLMs are currently not capable of or are still making mistakes on are properly monitored, tracked, and mitigated as much as possible. So what I want to focus on and what I want to show you guys is a tool that I've been experimenting with to track the performance of my RAG chatbot AI agents to make sure that they're performing to a certain standard. And I can also make sure that I keep track of what it is actually doing at the client side once it's implemented. So the tool I want to dive into today to help us with this is Langfuse. Langfuse is an open source LLM engineering platform that focuses on debugging and improving your LLM applications. So what it basically provides is a way to create a dashboard where you can monitor your AI LLM based applications. And so if we go to what this actually looks like, so I'm just using a demo project here to just show you the different capabilities of Langfuse. So once you open the dashboard, you will probably see something like this once everything is configured. And you have a few different things you can basically look at. Here you have just metrics, traces, which means the total amount of, you could see it as end-to-end interactions with a RAG chatbot, for example. You can look at the model costs, how much, tokens have been sent and how much did that cost me to, for example, GPT-4o Mini or a text embedding. We can look at different scores, and I will dive a bit more into these, but these are basically different ways to evaluate your RAG chatbot. You can look at the trace over time. So when is your RAG chatbot used the most? When does it have some peaks? Same with the model usage. You can look at user consumption. So all these IDs are basically individual users that have been using the chatbot. And you can basically monitor if certain people are sending a lot of tokens, generating a lot of costs. So you can dive deeper into what is causing this high amount of traffic from one specific user. We can again over time look at the scores. So for the different metric or scores that I will dive a bit deeper into, we can look at the latencies. How long does it take to go from A to Z with like the question and response of a RAG chatbot? And there are a bit more timeline-based metrics you can look into. Then we can go to the tracings tab, and if we go there, we can dive into each individual interaction that has been performed with our RAG chatbot or LLM-based application. So if I just click on one random one, so here you can see a certain interaction. So here was one input and an output. So here we can see that somebody had some input that was not in English, and we gave back an output that they can't help, that the RAG chatbot can't help with that request because it's not in English. It has some different steps that it performed. So the retrieval, vector store, context encoding, prompt for Langfuse, and we can actually dive a bit deeper into these. So for the vector store, you can see here that it has created an embedding. We can see if there's any documents related to that embedding, it will be in this output tab, and we can see some metadata about this call as well. So here there's some context encoding. Yeah, we have no meaningful things we got from the vector store, so there's no real context in here. And then there's the final generation that is being done based on the system prompt that was also retrieved for the specific RAG chatbot. Let's see if we can find one where it actually had some interesting response. So here there's an actual English question. So can Langfuse suggest prop refinements? It, as that question, it went into the vector store with the embedding. It retrieves some documents that are related to this question. It, based on what it retrieves, gets some context encodings. It fetches the system prompt again, and it generates the final output and sends that back. So here we can see the main flow. We can also see some scores in the top left of this bar. And like I mentioned before, these are basically scores that can be generated to extract different types of information about the response that our chatbot gave. So you can see conciseness, context relevant, hallucination, for example, toxicity. So the way we can define this is if we go to evaluation and LLM as a judge, here you see that the different templates that you just saw, the different scores, are related to a actual other LLM model that will determine if something is concise, if something is a certain language, if something is toxic. So if we take the toxicity score, for example, what we're basically doing is we're using another LLM model to determine if a certain message was toxic. And we do that by giving it a different prompt or different template to determine this. So here you can see like the template is evaluated toxicity of the generation on a continuous scale from 0 to 1. It basically explains what a toxic message is, and it gives some examples of what a toxic generation would be, so the model can better return an actual objective response for this. If we zoom a bit deeper into this, so if we go to the template, we can see that it's indeed using a model, so GPT-4o, to determine the toxicity based on the prompt and return a response for that. So if we go back to that toxicity, and here we can see like all the checks that were done based on the interaction with the actual RAG chatbot. So because we do a toxicity scan every time we give a response back, here we can specifically see when this was done, when this was completed, and what the result was of this. So here in this trace, we used a toxicity scan, and it gave back that this is not a toxic generation that was done. So it gives a score of 0 for this trace. So in the same way, we have this for the different scores. We all have a model behind it that will determine, is this correct? Does this contain code? Does this contain PII information? You can click this open and see what the prompt is. Examples, emails, SSNs, credit card numbers. So you can basically be pretty flexible with this and create your own score based on your requirements. Let's say we want some human intervention as well. So if we want to make sure that we can also human annotate certain of the interactions that were done with the RAG agent, this is also possible with Langfuse. So here we can basically have a tab where we review the user feedback. We can basically annotate what happened within this interaction of the RAG chatbot and the customer, and we can add some additional information such as the accuracy, the core issues, team quality, team toxicity, etc. This could possibly be an alternative to using LLMs as a judge, so we can have like a more robust determination of how our LLMs are behaving if LLM as a judge is not I guess satisfactory for the client. We can also look at sessions. So before we looked at traces, so it's one specific interaction with the bot, but of course somebody can ask more questions, follow-up questions to the chatbot. So we also want to get information about the session. So in this case, we just have one conversation or one question that was asked. But if we go down here, we see that two traces are contained in this session, which means that two messages were actually sent from the client side to the RAG agent. So here we can also have information about the kind of continuation of the use in relation with the RAG chatbot. So another interesting thing is of course the total cost. So here we can see the total cost of an entire session. If we go back to the trace, we can also see the cost for a single trace, and we can better investigate like, okay, what is causing a lot of spikes in the amount of tokens that are sent, the amount of cost that is costing us to give a specific answer. So this was a quick first introduction into Langfuse as an AI monitoring reliability observation tool. This can definitely help to give the client you're working for more reliability, more of a trust in the AI application that you're building, because you're actually showing them, hey, we have a nice dashboard, we can monitor this, we can look at everything that's happening, even once it is live, and we can keep tweaking and improving this while we serve the end customer. So I hope this was helpful. In the next video, I'll be doing more of a deep dive into how to set this up from scratch, and also looking at like, how do I actually have my RAG chatbot and connect this with Langfuse, get all my information into this. How do I create these LLM as a judge systems? How do I configure certain settings? We'll be discussing that in the next video. So make sure you subscribe, like, and comment if you have any more questions. See you in the next one.